don't do anything. Just open the door. As soon as my partner walks over, just open the door. He'll see what's going on. And he did. And I said, well, Bill, this is where we are now. Fortunately, we just needed to do 1 round of CPR for him, 1 dose of epi, and we got him back. We got ROSC, so had a heart rate, pulse again, heart rate again. So we don't fly anybody who is in active arrest typically, unless we call and get permission from our doctor, but we don't typically fly anybody that is in active arrest.
And is that because of a space issue, or is there another reason why?
Well, typically because that patient would benefit from going to an emergency room at that point, because whatever is causing them to arrest, they may need something a little bit more quickly than what we would be able to get them to. There has been times, however, that I have flown a patient who has just come out of this arrest, but it's been situations where I'm so far out in a rural situation that it literally will be half the time to fly them than it would be to drive to the local community hospital. In this case, we were about 6-7 minute drive from the closest hospital and about 15-minute flight to Pittsburgh. And that's just flight time. That is not including getting him loaded up onto the stretcher. We were already in the back of the ambulance. So despite the fact that we did get him back, my partner and I, we agreed we wanted to get him to the hospital because he probably had some things that he needed to be addressed a little bit more acutely than what we were going to be able to handle. And also pretty good chance he was going to arrest again on us. Anyway, so we make that decision. We're getting moving, and of course he does arrest again on us. And it's just that classic, his heart rate's dropped, and then all of a sudden his end tidal goes with no clear signs. Prior to that, SATs didn't drop anything. Anyway, so we get him there, we get him to the hospital. They start taking care of him. At that point, he is out of our care, he is out of our hands, but we know he's not at a level 1 trauma center. So if they are able to resuscitate him appropriately, we're going to be taking him anyway. We call our doc, we get approval, we're going to hang out at bedside, wait and see how this goes. They do get him back. They resuscitated him with multiple units of blood, multiple units of fluid. He did have a pneumo, so his right chest, his right lung had been collapsed. So they were able to put a chest tube in. They also exchanged out that eye gel for an actual intubation, just a little bit more secure of an airway, especially, the situation that he was in. So they got him pretty well stabilized, and that was great. Now, but mind you, this is probably about an hour and a half from our initial contact with that patient. So time's going by. So they now want him to be taken to a level 1 trauma center, which was absolutely the appropriate thing. So we tell him, okay, you fill out this paperwork for us. We're going to get everything loaded up. So we start getting everything moving. Everything, in relativeness, looks fine. We get him on our stretcher. We're heading upstairs to where the helipad is so we can meet our pilot. We get up there, and we're on the helipad. We're not loaded up yet, and things are just not going well, again, for this patient. We have him on the ventilator, and he is not ventilating at all. His SATs haven't dropped, but he is not ventilating. So anybody who's familiar with ventilators, his volumes were dropping down to under 100. His respiratory rate was not increasing. His peak pressures were not increasing. Just his volumes were less than 100, and I could not figure out what was going on. So I ended up calling our medical director, who was on call at the time, and he's walking me through all of these different settings. I'm so nervous. I'm new at this point, and I'm thinking, I missed something. I did something wrong. I missed something. So he's having me go through all of this. We're troubleshooting the chest tube that's already in, and I'm on the phone with him, and he just goes, there is something wrong with this patient, and you need to take him back downstairs to the ER. And it is not very heard of in our world, first of all, to have to take a patient to an ER, let alone twice within one call. So we get him back downstairs, and that team there at that hospital, just fantastic, jumped right back in, helping us. Ultimately, what had happened for this guy is his other lung had collapsed in that short time frame. So he needed another chest tube put in on the other side. So I remember the whole entire time they're doing all these things for this guy. I'm bagging him, and I'm just looking over at my partner, tears, watering up in my eyes. And I'm just like, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. And he looks at me and he was like, you didn't do anything. You didn't do anything. This guy is sick. you didn't do anything. And I was like, I'm the nurse on this call. I'm supposed to, be able to do X, Y, and Z, and it's not going well. And he's like, it's fine. Again, we get him stabilized, a little bit resuscitated, and this time we are able to get him loaded up into the aircraft, and we get him to Presby, so Level 1 Trauma Center. Whole team is there waiting for us, and he had a positive FAST exam, which is something they do within the first couple minutes. Anyone who's not familiar with that, sound to a couple particular points on someone's abdomen, and if it shows fluid, that's pretty indicative of that they have some sort of internal bleeding. So they're not going to mess around with anything else. They're going to take him straight to the OR, which is exactly what happened in that case. Took him right to the OR, and I was just happy to have him out of my hands at that point. And I was like, I knew the chart was going to be difficult. I knew everything was going to be difficult, but happy to have him out of my hands. Ended up getting a little bit of follow-up on him after the fact, and he had ended up on ECMO within 24 hours of his injuries. So again, anybody who's not familiar with that, it's where they're going to take a machine. They're going to, it looks like garden hoses. These tubes are so big, garden hoses that goes into your major veins, and they're going to circulate your blood through this machine, and it essentially works as similar to your lungs to oxygenate the blood. It's a very invasive. You don't want to be in that situation. To be on it, it's not good. So within 24 hours, he had to end up on that because his lungs had been so damaged through his his wreck, what he went through. But they said then I end up seeing the same trauma surgeon 2 weeks later, just passing by, bringing a patient in, and asked him, like, hey, by chance, do you remember this guy? What happened to him? And he looked at me and he's like, yeah, he is off of ECMO. He is awake. He is following commands. And I think I had to pick my jaw up off the floor. I did not expect that guy to make it whatsoever. And he looked at me and he said, whatever you did, keep doing it. And that just made me feel so good, because after that it took us in total 4 hours from initial contact to get that guy to a Level 1 Trauma Center. And I just kept thinking to myself, I'm missing something. I'm messing something up. That's why this situation keeps playing out. And the more and more time that we are keeping him from the OR, his chances of mortality are just increasing every single minute that I am not able to get him to this facility. And then once I heard, like I said, he was on ECMO, it's like, yep, that's it. He really did it. And then hearing that from the trauma surgeon, it felt really great.
Yeah, especially coming from a call that you said earlier that you felt like you weren't doing things right, or you're so new at it and this was your fault, or and then having such a great outcome. That's got to be a great feeling. So I'm going to have you back on the podcast to talk about some other stories, but as we start to wrap this episode up, tell me what you're going to do next. What are you going to do now? Are you going to fly for a while, or what's next for you? Yeah,
I mean, as of right now, the plan is to fly. I have wanted to be a flight nurse for so long that I want to take in everything that I can from this experience right now. I'm sure grad school is not out of the picture down the road, but I'm not worrying about that right now. I am in school currently, trying to finish my bachelor's in nursing. Almost done with that. Really excited. Just because that will open doors down the road. But right now, it's focusing on flying, trying to become the best flight nurse that I can, trying to become like these flight nurses that I've worked with, my preceptors, and just these other people I've worked with who I really look up to, and I want to get to that point. And I heard you're teaching a little EMS too. Yeah, I am. Yeah, pretty new at that as well, but it's exciting and fun, and I really am, I don't know if you can tell, really passionate about what I do. I really enjoy it. And now given the opportunity to be able to pass that along and, maybe even kind of instill some of that passion into some other folks, that'd be really great. I'm really excited for the opportunity. Well, good. Well, Katie, thanks for coming on the podcast, and thanks for sharing one of your flight stories and then also your path to become a flight nurse. I'm sure anybody that's listening that has aspirations of flying, whether as a nurse or a medic, will probably get a whole lot out of this episode, and certainly come back. I know you have a pocket full of stories to share, and you're only picking up more every day that you go to work.
So definitely come back on the podcast and let's talk more about some of the patients that you encounter and some of the work that you do in the air. I don't often get a chance to speak to flight nurses.